2422, T.A. Jackson with Headland, Banner, Holly Lobby.
Good morning from the Royal Highland Show. I'm making my way down a very busy thoroughfare, trying very hard not to pause at all the very many shops. I mean, how much tweed can a woman buy in a day? This is the 183rd Royal Highland Show. It's held every year just outside Edinburgh and quite near Edinburgh Airport. So there's a constant sound of sheep, cattle, aeroplanes and people. They're actually expecting 200,000 visitors over the 4 days of the show, which will make it briefly one of the biggest towns in Scotland. But just by the side of the sheep ring, there are about 8 sheep being shown. And a judge just making his way along. Standing next to me is Katie McFadden, who's the competitions executive here at the Royal Highland Show. At this point, I guess you're just feeling happy that logistically you've got everybody here on time and it's all going fine.
Getting all these animals on site is definitely a bit of a logistical nightmare. We've got about 6,000 entries from 2,500 exhibitors, so it's really good entry this year across the board.
How important is this really, though, for Scottish agriculture? It's lovely, it's a great day out. Does it matter?
It's probably one of the only times in the year that all farmers kind of take a day off, they come here, they speak to each other, and they just have a day off work and come and see their friends. So I think it's really important on that front for people to be able to get together and have a day away from the farm.
We're surrounded actually now by school children. You could probably hear them chatting in the background, all gazing in absolute awe and wonderment at these sheep. This is part of it, isn't it?
RET, which is Royal Highland Education Trust, they support schools to come to the show. They've got the Discovery Centre. They're getting to come to the show, learn about agriculture, learn about where their food comes from, and I think that's really important on a whole.
We're overlooking the main ring. At the moment, it's full of horses being put through their paces by men in kilts and women in beautiful dresses. The noise you can hear behind us, well, that's because we're on the Quality Meat Scotland stand. They represent the red meat industry, and they have every year a breakfast meeting. This year, it was addressed by the First Minister, John Swinney, who had quite a lot to say.
Your views improve our policies so that we know that they work for you as well as for the rest of Scotland. Now, there will of course be issues of controversy and debate, and one of those is the proposed price cap on supermarket essentials. I believe the cap is needed to ensure that as the cost of living pressures persist, essential food items, and I stress essential food items, remain affordable to members of the public. It's needed because no one should have to choose between feeding their family and meeting other basic needs. But we also know that achieving our aim requires very careful consideration and handling. It cannot come at the expense of farmers, growers and producers who produce these items for us all.
John Swinney there. Well, with me is Duncan McAllister from the National Farmers Union Scotland. The First Minister did reiterate that there will be no reduction in the number of livestock here in Scotland in order to meet climate targets. He also talked a lot about growth, the government's economic agenda. They've taken food and drink out of the rural portfolio, put it into more the treasury end of things. And he's talking also about a rural growth bill, in effect. What would you like to see? What needs to happen for all his ambition to be realised?
He mentioned growth, I think, 10 times, which is brilliant because that's what we're all about. You know, we can produce more in Scotland. There's a lot of abandoned land in Scotland throughout the west that's very unproductive. Growth and confidence go together, and they're very fickle. Confidence can disappear. Like we're seeing this year, the price of beef is not as good as it was, and it's dented confidence that the Scottish farmers are not as bouncy as they were.
The other thing he talked about, which may well dent confidence a little bit further, is the price cap on supermarket essentials. Are you nervous about it?
Extremely. That price cap thing could work horrendously badly for primary producers, because at the end of the day our margins are so thin, we cannot shift that back to us. We can't pay that. You know, if it comes back to us and they're selling milk at below cost of production, they'll only sell it for a very small time, and then there won't be Scottish milk. That won't work.
How can it work though? Somebody's got to take a hit.
Well, the only way I could see it working is somehow if they put a support element into it. They need to finance it. You know, we cannot do it with less than cost of production. It's completely unsustainable.
Duncan McAllister there from the National Farmers Union Scotland. I've come into the cattle hall here at the show. This is where people get their animals ready before they take them out to be judged. Just behind me is the most magnificent collection of Highland cattle. They've got these big, shaggy, light brown coats and enormous horns, which is why I'm standing quite a sensible distance away. In front of me, the most magnificent Hereford bull. He's big, he's powerful, he's a sort of liver brown and white. Just at the moment he's having his tail zhuzhed. I think that's the only word for it. I've actually come in here just to talk to farmers and find out what they think of this idea of a price cap on essential foods.
I think you need to actually readjust and actually figure out if he's paying farmers a fair price for what they're producing, and look at what we're importing in comparison. Look at what goes into producing the amazing quality that we produce in Scotland.
It's craziness, I can't see how at the end of the day the supermarkets won't take the cut, so they're going to bottom out our price. So it'll be us. How can you cap the price of essential items? It's just meaning that we are taking a price cut to cut it in the shops. So I think it's a non-starter, hopefully. It's a crazy idea.
At the end of the day, it's the farmers that are got to take the hit. It's not got to be the supermarkets or anything like that. So capping us, and we're the ones that put the hard work in to produce the products.
I think that could be a disaster, really. I think limiting the price of those products means it will filter down. I mean, it's the meat itself rather than the processed products, which are very price sensitive already, and that's going to make them even more price sensitive.
Although the government will say, well, hang on, people are really suffering at the moment because of the inflation in food, and this is something which can practically help a lot of consumers.
Well, I don't think it's going to help when we basically haven't got an industry here, and when you have to bring product from all over the world because we're not producing it in the UK anymore, and there will be less beef, less lamb, less pork, less chicken on the market.
Some of the farmers here at the Royal Highland Show. Well, with me is Gillian Martin. She's the new Cabinet Secretary for Climate Action and Rural Affairs in the Scottish Government. We heard there the farmers very concerned about this price cap idea on essential foods. How can that work without impacting what they are paid?
The way it can work is we have to be looking at protecting producers from retailers that want to squeeze them on price. And that's not just because of the food cap. That's been a situation that we've had to be dealing with forever and amen. Consumers are struggling with the cost of living right now, but farmers are also struggling with the cost of production right now. And I know that farmers are saying, well, are we going to be exposed? If there's a food cap and are we going to be exposed? And I would say to them, no, they are not going to be, because we are looking in the middle at retailers who are making massive profits and asking them to do more, to have a very small number of items available to their customers. That means that their shopping is going to be more affordable in the basics. But at the same time, we're going to be making sure that the voices of producers is heard, so they're not squeezed on price.
So the retailers have to take the hit. It's as simple as that.
It is as simple as that.
They're not going to like that.
But they have the capacity. The producers and growers don't have the capacity. And what really matters to Scottish customers is that they are protecting their agriculture sector, that they have less food miles associated with their produce, and that they can afford to feed their families. And I hope that the supermarkets will be open to having a conversation with the Scottish Government in which their reputation is improved as a result by their cooperation on the food cap.
I'm sure we're going to talk more about this in the months to come. When do you envisage it will actually happen?
We need to get it right, and I'm not going to put a timescale on it. We're all going to make sure that when it is rolled out, that it's done right. It is not going to impinge on the profitability or the viability of producers and growers in Scotland. And actually there's a conversation, I think, to be had as a result of the work on the price cap on the prices that producers get from supermarkets.
Let's move on to other things. You're new in this role, and your job title is different than your predecessor. So she was the Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs, Land Reform and Islands. You're the Cabinet Secretary for Climate Action and Rural Affairs. So how's the job changed?
The job has changed, and effectively we have got the climate action and nature part along with the rural affairs portfolio, which it includes agriculture, of course, it includes fisheries, but it also includes a lot of things about communities right to buy land for communities, land use in general, and bringing those two things together in terms of where we have to be reducing emissions associated with land use is very, very important.
It's also
Makes
really
perfect
complicated
sense.
though, isn't it? Because we heard again the Scottish Government committing to not reducing numbers of livestock here in Scotland, but you've been advised to reduce emissions, that's exactly what you need to do. So the two sides of your portfolio are immediately in conflict.
I don't think they are in conflict, because I think the solution to reducing emissions on farm and in land use comes from innovation. It comes with protecting our industries so we don't offshore our emissions. We do not want to see a sector that is diminished in any way, so we have to import more food, because that's food miles, like carbon miles associated with that. We need to have local produce, Scottish growers, Scottish farmers feeding Scottish families. And that is the way to reduce emissions associated with food, but also the solutions in terms of land use lie with the growers, the farmers and the land managers in Scotland, and the innovation associated with that about reducing emissions on farm. I did not want to be in a situation where we would lose an iconic sector in Scotland, which isn't just about farming, it's about communities. And reducing the herd on purpose is a backwards way to think about things.
You talk about innovation, but farmers here might point out that to innovate, they need to be profitable. What they want from policy is some certainty, and they feel that's not what they're getting.
Well, there is certainty because we have committed to direct payments in a way that the rest of the UK haven't, and we've given that multi-year certainty on that. We will not achieve our ambitions as a government, as a country, without taking the agricultural sector with them.
Gillian Martin there, the new Cabinet Secretary for Climate Action and Rural Affairs in the Scottish Government. I'm inside the food hall here at the Royal Highland Show. It's absolutely teeming with people and produce. Everything from whiskey and gin to bread, ice cream, cookies, all the good things. I'm actually watching three men eat ice cream. This is part of the dairy competition. They judge butter, cheese, milk, but at the moment it's ice cream. What a job. I'm hoping to grab a word with the head judge.
Joseph Bonney. I am an ice cream consultant for the UK's ice cream industry. Today I've got a great job with my fellow judges to taste all the wonderful ice creams that we produce in Scotland. Fantastic range of ice creams, gelato, sorbet, any flavour, you name it, we've got it.
Do you know roughly how many you're tasting?
Yes, we've got 152. We're only halfway through, so it's quite a eat, but it's quite a nice job actually, eating ice cream.
I don't know, I would imagine I'd start off enthusiastic and by this point be less enthusiastic.
Yeah, there's a little bit in the middle where I have to pull the judges together because you can see they're getting kind of distracted. But we start off with this sort of plain flavours and then we're now moving on to the more exciting ones. We're doing the open class, so that could be any combination, any flavour. So we're looking forward to that.
You've been involved in ice cream for a long time. Yes. Has it changed here in Scotland with the way producers produce and indeed what they produce?
I think it's changing the fact there's a lot of smaller producers now. A lot of farmers have come into the industry. A lot of the dessert shops are here now. We've got a lot of specialist gelato shops, which is really good because obviously the home of ice cream is Italy. And of course I think the Scottish, we make fantastic milk and cream. So a combination with that and some of the Italian knowledge is taking it to another level.
Have you got a winner?
We're having the vanilla and the strawberry and the chocolate and the sorbet, but we haven't done the rest. So I can't really divulge who's done well so far. So we need to wait a little bit longer, sorry.
And eat a bit more.
Yeah, you have to wait more.
Thank you very much. Get back to it.
Thank you.
And that's it from us here at the Royal Highland Show. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer was Rebecca Rooney. And Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.